there's one more here.
Don't do that.
Thank you all for coming this afternoon, this beautiful afternoon. My name is Laurel Lane, and I'm on the board of the Madeline Island Friends of the Madeline Island Museum. And we are also have invited the Friends of the Library. So if you are there because of that, we welcome you. And I have to say thanks to Michaela and the whole library for hosting us today, and for Nicole at Firefly, who did the cookies. And this is going to be a real treat. And it is actually a perk for you as a member of the Friends of the Madeline Island Museum. So there are more events, which I'll tell you about at the end, but I think we all know our dear speaker, Connie Ross. She is the retired librarian, as you know. She's an author, she is an artist, she is so many other things, and a dear old friend, and always enlightening, always educating, always insightful, always history and stories. Believe it or not, she is. And it is my honor to introduce again Connie Teisberg.
Easier than I thought, because I think I know almost everybody in the audience, which is really nice. So I'm just going to read a little introduction to what I'm talking about, and then I just have some talking points.
Yes. Speak up a little. Use your teacher voice.
Life before the library. My life on the island started about 73 years ago. My 7 siblings and I lived in St. Paul during the months we were in school. And then in the summers, we spent about 3 months on the island every year. The memories of those summers were filled with laughter, play, unbound creativity, new friends and old, and freedom. I never realized just how wonderful it was until we started a family of our own. I was teaching at the Crocus Hill Nursery School in St. Paul, so that meant summers off. In June, we would head up to the island. Ham, my husband, was a contractor, and I tried my hand at several jobs. I worked repairing sails at the Sailor's Palm in Bayfield for a couple of summers. I helped Mitchie as a step-on guide occasionally when she had an extra bus coming over. I had some painting projects here and there. I cleaned charter boats at the marina. I worked on the committee boat for the weekly sailboat races. I taught tennis and etc. I decided to put my teaching career on hold in St. Paul and reluctantly moved to Madeline Island full-time. I also decided to write a book, a children's book. I got a pretty good start on it, but then something happened. Something good, something I never imagined would happen. I landed the best job ever. And that was my job here at the library. So I guess I'll start at the beginning, how I got the job. There was not a whole lot of competition for the job. In fact, I went to a basket weaving class at Woods Hall, and Sharon Ochnick was the director then. And she was weaving baskets, and she just kind of put it out there that she was going to retire. And so she said, is anybody interested? And I thought everybody in the room would raise their hand, but I was the only one who did. And I got the job. And this library is just so near and dear to me because it was established in 1960, so I was 8 years old when my library life started here. And it was just, spending summers up here was just incredible. And Pat Gary's the one who was responsible for establishing this library in 1960, and then I think they sold it to the town for $1. And she made it into a library, filled it with books, and then gave it to the town. If she hadn't done that, I just don't know if we would even have a library here on the island. And it's such an important part of life up here for so many people. So I got the job at the basket weaving class. And I was studying at the University of Minnesota studio art. So I had no library background except for my visits to lots of libraries in my life. So I really, when I got the job, I didn't really realize what it entailed. I knew that you would sit at the circulation desk and people would come in and return books and people would come and check out books, and I thought pretty much that's what the job was, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. But I was kind of self-taught, but Sharon came in and kind of gave me some pointers and the routine. She told me about board meetings every month. And I had to come up with a monthly report on what was happening at the library. And I'd never done anything like that. I didn't know who my boss was, really. I knew that the library belonged to the town, but I found out that my boss is not the town, it's the library board. And when your boss is a library board, or any kind of a board, the dynamics change every time there's a new member on the board. So all these years, you know, everybody had different ideas about how to run the library and suggestions, and some of them were very good and very helpful, and some were not. But anyways, I wasn't quite sure how much I was getting paid either. Michaela lent me the board minutes, and I went through them, and I went back to 1987, and it didn't really say how much I was getting paid, but I did find some minutes that said they were giving me a raise to $7.50. So it was a long journey getting up to what a librarian should really get paid, but so I learned how to make monthly reports, which included a budget. And I'd never done a budget before. I had no idea what a budget was. You know, I mean, I knew what it was, but I'd never written one, and let alone for a library, but I quickly learned. I had to take classes from Madison to get my certification as director. And I was able to take them. Well, this is like ancient online classes. I went to Washburn, Wisconsin, and they had ETN classes, which were electronic telecommunication network classes. So I went to the courthouse, and they had a room, a small room, and a table. And on the table was a big speaker, and then a microphone right next to that. And that's where I had my lessons from Madison. And I remember the teacher was talking about technology and how it's just going to change the world. And this was way before computers. I mean, before I knew what a computer was, really. And let alone a computer in the library. But she was talking about CD-ROMs and memory being stored, and I didn't have a clue what she was talking about, but I learned through experience. I also found out that we were part of the Northern Waters Library Service. So they were extremely helpful in helping me with continuing educations and conferences. And when I first started, the NWLS would come over with a bookmobile. And he parked the bookmobile in the parking lot. And he came over with a collection of newer books every month. He'd come over once a month and This was a rotating collection, so we'd get, you know, a bunch of newer books every month. So we didn't have to buy them for the library. This was also before interlibrary loan, so what you saw is what you got here. Let's see. So attending conferences was really interesting. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I met other librarians in the area, and we networked. We talked about what was going on at their library and what was going on in our library, and I picked up a lot of good ideas on fundraising and that type of thing. So the library certification is good for 5 years, and then you have to apply for recertification, and you have to have 100 hours of a credit within the 5-year period. But Matt, you also have to write up a description of each class or conference that you went to, and then you had to say how it helped you in your job. And so every 5 years I was madly trying to remember that conference or what we learned and getting my recertification. So I did that a few times. I also learned that somebody needed to clean the library before we hired somebody to do that. But one of the things that was really hard, because we would, the library stayed open until 5 o'clock, but we'd never close at 5 o'clock. There were always people coming in later, and that was just the way it was. But, cleaning up after people in the library, especially in the children's section. If you were ready to go home after a long day, then you got your backpack on and stuff, and then you remembered, oh, I have to clean the children's area. But we did that. And then there were questions from patrons. And they're all pretty interesting. Some were a little weird, but we did what we could. It was fun. Siri and I had a great time, doing research on a lot of weird questions. The first technology that we had in the library was, I put in a voucher for a word processor. And that was really new. I mean, that was the first technology we had. It actually was, we sent our vouchers over to the town hall they don't really have to approve them because the library board has a say in how the funds are spent for the library once they've agreed on what the budget will be. So I put this voucher in for this word processor, and evidently somebody, not on the board, or somebody who worked over at the town hall decided we didn't need one. And that was my first time going over and telling them that, yes, we did need it, and you didn't have any say about it. And I also had some statutes that I had read that was my first time I had ever had to go to a statute and find that statute that said that. Most of the first computers we had were donated. So they were older. They had been used by someone, and they worked, but they were older technology. So we just we didn't have Wi-Fi at first either. So then grants started showing up, and we were able to get NWLS, the Northern Waters Library Service, was able to get lots of grants for us to get our own brand new computers. And we also got a really nice grant from the Bill Gates Foundation, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. And they gave us 3 computers. And they not only sent the computers, but they sent a person. They sent a person and she lived, I remember her name. She had a great name. Helena Halenga. And she was young, And she came and she stayed on the island for a week. And she taught Siri and I how to use the computers. And if they hadn't done that, we probably would have been, you know, up the river without a paddle.
Connie, did you have to apply for those grants?
Yes, some of them. Yeah,
But
the
so-
Northern Waters applied for us
Okay.
with those grants, but there were other grants that we had to apply for. So, yeah, that was another thing I had to learn, grant writing. So, that was interesting. Some of them were pretty hard, pretty tough. We always, so we got computers, and not everybody had a computer in their pocket at that time. So we had a lot of people coming in here to use the computers. And I don't think you don't have any filtering, do you?
No, our newer stuff up here has stuff, the bark system, but the ones downstairs do not.
Yeah, because that was one thing I was kind of adamant about. I did not want to put filtering on it, because this is a library. And so we didn't. And, children wanted to use the computers as much as the adults did. So we had to designate a section for children's computers and a section upstairs for the adults. And there were some adults who, Barbie, your dad, Jai would come in here and he'd just make a beeline for this one computer that he really liked, but it was in the children's section. And I kept saying, Jai, if a child comes in here and wants to play on the computer, you have to get off. And he didn't care. He just always went to that computer, so I finally just gave up on that. But we didn't have any filtering, so the parents had to sign documents stating that they knew their children were going to be on the computer and there was no filtering. I saw very little parents looking over the shoulders of the kids on those computers, but Siri and I kind of kept an eye on them. I kept them intact, but one time I remember an adult was up here on a computer and he came down and he said that something happened and there was stuff, flashing on the screen and he couldn't get it off. And it just happened to be porn. And so we unplugged the computer. We could not figure out how to stop it. And a few days later, I was coming up the stairs and there was a young man, a teenager, coming down the stairs. And I said, were you just up on the computer up here? And I knew just by his answer. He said, yeah. So there were lots of glitches at the beginning. Then there was so much demand for computer use that we decided we needed to put an addition on the library. So that is the addition, and that room right there used to be the computer room. And there were still so many people that we had to have people sign up for time on the computer. And we had people that would use the Wi-Fi out in the parking lot at night and stuff like that. And it was fun with me. And then after that, before technology hit this library, people would check out a book, bring the book down, take the card out, put their name on it, and I'd put it in a little file with a due date on it. And then pretty soon they said, no, you can't do that anymore. You have to give all of your customers or your patrons numbers that they can use instead of having to sign their name. And so we did that for a while. And then after that, everything was digitized. The collection was, put online, and the library cards were all, barcodes and stuff like that. So there were no more cards in the pockets of the books. And that was really hard for me because every once in a while, I'd pick up a children's book or something and see my name on the card from when I had checked it out as a child. So that was kind of fun. And every once in a while, there were cards that I would just kind of keep because they had everybody's name on that I knew, you know. So anyways, now I'd like to talk a little bit about the programs we've had and the job of PR at the library turned out to be a big part of my job. We started out with posters or word of mouth to get people to know what programs or what was going on at the library. And, you know, it was a poster at the post office and a poster on the front door. And then word of mouth. And then a few years after that, I started writing the bookshelf banter, which was printed in the Gazette. And then every 6 weeks we'd have, you know, catch up on what was going on and let people know. Then we got into emails, sending emails out to people. And then the biggest, the one that worked the best was Facebook, putting announcements on the Facebook page, the community Facebook page. So, but I realized, like, you know, I was spending so much time on PR that I just, and you know, I never thought of it as part of a job as a librarian, but it was a big part. To keep the library afloat. And we had a lot of nice donations from people who really believed in this place. And we had volunteers who came in to read to the children at story time or help with special programs or sit at the desk and check books out and check books in. And we also had a lot of visiting artists because there are a lot of artists in this area. And I remember one time we had Hope Atkinson here to work with the kids. And that was so interesting. And we still have a couple of pieces in here somewhere. Her cardboard puppets. I have a little list here of some of the programs that we would put on and still are being put on. So I'm just going to quickly read some of them off. There was a summer reading program, yoga, art classes for adults and children, knitting, Girl Scouts, game nights, chess, bingo, slumber parties, teen pizza game night, mask making, movie night, basket making, little acorns, story time, book sales, special guests, altered books, book making, trim the tree, Halloween, 4th of July floats, square dancing, hip hop, plays, music camp, book club, 50 years of growing, celebration, campaign for raising money for the edition, the stepping stones, outside, tutoring. We had an author's garden party with authors that were just living on the island. And I think at that time, and that was several years ago, there were 32 authors, and it's a lot more now. We had a children's carnival, and that's just a sampling. And a lot of those are still going on today. And let's see, I have a few.
What about the library float one?
The float?
For the 4th of July?
The 4th of July. Okay, so, thanks, Alice. So one year, I spent a lot of time on those floats. It was really a big deal. And kids came in and helped, and the kids were the ones who really made the float. But I remember one year, what was it, Alice? What was I saying?
Oh, because you handmade all of the banners.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I handmade the banners. I took a sheet and I wrote the theme for the summer reading program. And kids carried it in the parade, and and then I would take that banner and I would put it up on the porch of the library for the summer. And so a lot of people saw it in the parade, And and I hung it up, and it was about halfway through the summer, this man came into the library and he said, "Excuse me, but did you know the word library is misspelled on your And at that point, I was making the banners using an overhead projector. And so I had spelled it library. I had an extra AR in there, and I never noticed it. I mean, I had to copy the letters, I had to trace them on the sheet, I had to paint them on the sheet. Nobody noticed it in the parade. And the guy, he said, "I'm gonna go home and get my camera." Somebody did a thing on their talk show, late night talk show, about funny signs. He said, like, Jimmy Fallon's gonna love this, or Jimmy Fallon.
Did it make it on?
I know, no. But it was on a sheet, so I was able to cut the sheet. So, another thing about that library float is, one year the committee came to me. It was like the 3rd of July, and they forgot about trophies. So they didn't have any trophies for the winners. And so they came in and said, "Could you please make some certificates for the prizes?" And so I did, and I snuck in the best library float certificate. And they still have the best library float award, and every year the library wins it. And they even won it this year, and they didn't even have a float. So.
Well, they did have a float. It just was
Oh, did they?
It was the skate park. They're
Oh, the
fundraising for the
skate
skate
park. Oh,
park.
okay.
Oh.
I thought it was there was a 2-person band.
And that was part of it as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was,
It's a double.
and it was very confusing, because we knew that we had to give you the prize, but we really didn't know to whom we were giving the prize.
And we also did yarn bombing here at the library. Does everybody know what that is?
No.
We have a knitting group, pretty strong knitting group that Siri was in charge of. And yarn bombing is where you knit around objects.
Oh,
And
yes.
So
Yes.
the pillars outside were all knit, and the tree outside the trunk of the tree was knit, and it stayed there for a number of years, and then it finally had to be removed. But movie nights. Let's see. These are some stories. Some kind of funny stories. There was one patron when I first started who came into the library and gave me instructions on how to get books for him. First of all, no hardcovers, all paperbacks. He would come in once every 2 weeks, and he'd have 2 bags of paperback books that somebody else, I think Sharon, started doing this for him. And he wanted adventure, thrillers, mysteries, that kind of book. So about every 2 weeks, I'd have to fill paper bags, grocery bags, with paperbacks for him. And he was a very nice man. He was an older man, and every 2 weeks he'd bring them back. When he was done, he read them all. And he had some kind of a business having to do with balloons. So every summer he gave me a big bag of balloons for the kids. And one year I had to I needed balloons for the float, and I started blowing up the balloons, and they were all seconds. some had a hole in it, and some you could blow up the one part, and the other part just didn't blow up. And that took quite an effort. Some of them just could do. But anyways, his heart was in the right place.
Sort of.
I remember coming in one day when it was the old library, and I opened the door, and I always came in the front door because we didn't have the side door then. And an animal ran across the floor in front of me, and I didn't know what it was, and I immediately jumped up on the chair. And I realized I was in the reference section. So on the shelf were books about animals, field guides. And I opened it up and I found it. It was a weasel. So I found where he got in, the hole, in the old bathroom. I don't know if anybody remembers the old bathroom downstairs. And so I plugged up the hole, and I never saw a weasel again, but that was an exciting day. One day I came into the library, and we had a book return bench out on the front porch. And there was a book in a brown paper bag with a note attached to it. And it was a book that was being passed around to people on the island because it was written by somebody that came up here, spent some time up here. Everybody knew him. And so everybody was taking turns. I had a list of people to give it to. I gave it to Patty Knudsen. It was her turn. And she took it home. And the next day is when I found that book in a brown paper bag. And she said, "This is where this book belongs." Some pretty racy spots in it, so that was pretty funny.
You're not gonna tell us the name of the book?
Summarize it, Connie.
I'll tell you later. Let's see. We had Richard. Does everybody remember Richard?
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time at the library. Yeah, he rode his bicycle, and every year we could count on Richard coming in, and on his birthday, and he wanted us to make a banner for him with the old, the printer dot matrix kind of printer. So every year we'd make a birthday banner because he would hold a party for himself. And he also coined the phrase. We thought he did, but I've seen it elsewhere. But we wrote it down and framed it. And he used to say to Siri and I, "It's so nice to be nice to the nice." But so yeah, we miss Richard a lot. I had a little girl in here with a cast on one day, and her uncle was with her, and we went down to the basement for something, not knowing that she was following us, and she fell down the stairs.
Oh no.
And so that was one time where I had to call the ambulance. She was fine, but we also were kind of a waiting room for the health center sometimes, because people would come to the health center and they would close. So, the finial on top of the library, one day I came to work, and the finial is the decorative pointy thing on top of the bell tower over here, okay? And it adds a lot of class to the building. And I came to work, it was being painted, and I parked my car, and there was some stuff on the grass, and I looked, and it was the finial in pieces. And I asked the painter, I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Oh, it was old. I just took it off." And he threw it down. It was just like in pieces. And so, but the Island Association paid for a new finial, which Ham, Ross, and Michael North made. An interesting thing about that finial is that when it came down, I realized that there's a ball on the top of it. And the ball was copper, I think. And it was totally full of bullet holes.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah, target practice. Yeah. So we needed a new ball on the top. And we tried to think of what we could use, and somebody thought about, some plumbing supply thing or something or whatever. But we decided, Ham and Mike decided to get a styrofoam ball, and they put fiberglass over it, and then painted it gold, and that's what's up there now.
Wow.
Also, I found out that the bell that used to be in that bell tower is on the wall at the museum right now.
Mm.
It says old school bell. And it would be kind of fun to have it back in the bell tower, I think, but I don't think we could get it away from the museum. The building, by the way, the building was built in 1872. And it was built, Joanne Hennings, who used to be on the library board, did some research, and all she could find were some town board minutes from 1872, saying they wanted a school just like the one over in Bayfield. And so they did. They built this building, and it was exactly like the one that they had in Bayfield, which isn't there anymore. It was on Washington, and it's gone now. I've seen it in some of the old maps that they have of Bayfield. But, and it was built down at the beginning of Nebraska Road. So that's where the original library was. Wouldn't it be nice if it was there still? What a view. But it's been moved. I say it's been moved 4 times. It was moved from its original site over to Molly O'Brien's Blue House over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was moved to this site. So that's 1, 2. And then they picked it up, decided it needed a foundation, so they picked the building up, put it over here where the parking lot is, built a foundation. That's 3. And then, after the foundation, they put it back on the foundation. 4. So, and then it's been, we've had new windows and reinforcement on the 2nd floor and stuff like that. I guess it used to be used for a community center for a while, after it wasn't a school. And Ted Anderson said they used to play basketball up here.
Connie, when did it stop being used as a school?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I'm
Approximately.
not sure. Probably 1900s, early 1900s. I'd say. Maybe a little later than that. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. We have a book downstairs in this library that tells us that. Let's see. Oh, we used to have, when we were younger, we would come to the library for film night. On Wednesday nights, there was always a film. And we use a reel-to-reel, 16 millimeter. There's one up there on the shelf. We'd get the movies from the Elliott Film Company in Minneapolis. They'd be sent through the mail. These big boxes with the reels in them. And I remember one time Jeannie was in charge, my sister Jeannie was in charge of the movie. And she didn't realize it, but the take-up reel wasn't working very well. And so about halfway through the movie, it didn't have enough room to take any more film. And Jeannie didn't want to stop, but there were a lot of kids there watching. And so she just piled it up in front of her for the rest of the movie. And the pile of film must have been that tall. But I remember Old Yeller and Biscuit Eater and just sobbing at some of those movies. But we also watched classics like The Portrait of Dorian Gray and Tale of Two Cities, and it was pretty. But the movies, the appeal of movies at the library lost its appeal when everybody got a VCR and everybody had the movies that I was showing, And I remember showing a film one night, and One kid got up and went to the window and saw some kids playing on the playground. He was gone. A couple more kids went to the window. They were gone. Pretty soon I was the one watching them. I thought, I don't know if that's why they're really here. You know, they were there for the friendship, you know, the socialization. So. Let's see. So, Fast Library Float, 4th of July banner. Yeah, I think I've covered pretty much. I'm sure you all have some good stories too.
When you took over what your budget was,
I looked at it and I think it was like 10,000, and that might be high. Maybe 7,000.
but did Mrs. Gary have did she give an endowment?
No,
No, okay.
no. So, yeah, it was pretty cheap for a long time. But I don't know. Do you know what the budget is?
Closer to 300,000 now.
And the wage is not $7.50.
We have upped it a little bit.
I guess I want to, mention people who have been really important in giving gifts to the library and making it what it is today. And the first person, of course, I mentioned was Pat Gary. And it was just so, and they, Pat Gary, those first years she hired somebody to spend the summer teaching a summer library program to children. 5 days a week. And guess where the Tysburg children were? 5 afternoons. We were at the library. And
I'd like to say something else. You know, she's the one that, when I was working that program, it was, she also paid for the Elliott films. That's how it all started. Because I had never, that's how I learned to use a projector. And anyway, she funded that, and she funded the library, the first library program.
yeah,
And I think she stopped it in about, when did you, I don't know, if it kind of,
Katie Woodall and I did it a couple years.
okay, so I did it till about 70.
Yeah, and then we did it for a couple of years, yeah.
So Connie, did she buy the building? How did it come
Yes,
into,
she bought the building.
from the town or from?
No, well, I don't know.
Probably
I guess so, yeah. School building, yeah, and then she gave it back.
And she paid
After
for
it
all of
was-
the stuff. And this looks pretty much like it looked
Right.
when I was teaching up here.
Yeah,
You know, it's amazing.
and I always wanted to keep this room open
Right.
because it was really important to have community events in here. I mean, there was for a while, some board members had some ideas of filling this room with shelves. And I just said, no, can't do that. Yeah. So Pat Gary is my first. Oh, she also used to, every summer, at the end of the summer, she had the Garys had a big party for all the kids.
Or the
And-
parade, of course. Yeah, the parade.
Parade, well, the parade was 4th of July.
No, parade was August,
Oh,
at the end of the library program. And then Pat Hart brought it back. So when I was
Oh.
teaching, we had the parade, and that went till probably 69 or 70. And then
That's
it
before
stopped. And then Pat Gary brought it back because her kids had been in all the parades. And she said, let's do it on the 4th of July. So that made a lot of sense.
but every year they would have a party for the children at the end of the summer. And we got, Julie, do you remember this? Helium balloons this big. Every kid got a helium balloon. And the Garys had several boats, all different kinds of boats, even a miniature tugboat. And they'd have them all over at the Gary dock, ready for the kids to go for rides on the boats. They also had a pool, and pool was really novel up here on the island. So we would swim in the pool, and Mr. Gary would cook out on the beach. He'd cook hot dogs and hamburgers on the beach, and we'd go for boat rides and have these huge balloons, and it was just like wonderland. So Pat Gary, then I also wanted to thank another gift-giving organization was the Island Association. Every year, the Island Association would give funds, and the representative from the Island Association that used to talk to me about what we needed was Jack Moran. And when we needed funds for that new finial, the Island Association gave us the funds, and we decided to give it in memory of Jack Moran. So there's a plaque on the front of the building denoting that. The Goldmans gave a huge garden party, and we to raise money for the addition. The Gates Foundation really got us going with technology, with computers. Hugh Fitzgerald gave us a huge donation of books, his collection, a collection of leather-bound classics, hundreds of them. And I had them in that room, and we decided to get somebody in to see, how much they were worth if we had to, put it on the insurance or whatever. And this guy from the Washburn bookstore came in, and he said, if I were you, I would sell these books and replace them with books that you don't mind people actually reading. Because all these leather-bound classics, people collected them. And so he sold them for us, and we made about $3,000 off of that collection of books. And he also gave us signed copies of Harry Potter books. But then we had to figure out how to authenticate the signature. And they're still here, I think, aren't they, Michaela?
They are.
Yeah. So I went to a couple different people, and nobody could really figure out how to authenticate the signature. So they're still here. The elevator, when we decided to put the addition on, we had to make it ADA accessible, so we put the ramp on the outside, and we had to put an elevator in, and it was much costlier than we thought it would be. And Sally Ross stepped forward and gave us the elevator. My mother-in-law. We also have a gazebo outside, and that was donated from funds from the Havens family in memory of Fred and Jane Haven. So Ham built that gazebo, and he did not build it where it sits. He built it not at our house, but at some other location anyway. So he had to move the completed gazebo to where it sits now. And I have film of Arnie Nelson picking it up with a hoist and driving to the location and plopping it down. But that gazebo was supposed to be like the gazebo that we knew down at the end of the town dock when we were children. I mean, there's still around gazebo. It's a replacement. But when we were kids, there was a pole in the middle of that gazebo, and everybody put their initials in it. And I don't know what happened to that pole, but it should be in the museum. Yeah, it was just. And then they decided they didn't need a pole in the middle, so there's no pole in the middle of the new gazebo at the town dock. But there is a pole in this gazebo specifically for initials.
Just a little side note too about the gazebo and the memorial stones that are out there. Speaking of technology, their Library Woods now has a sound garden, and you use it through your own phone. You download the app, it's free, and you can listen to it. But part of the sound garden is also poems and stories, and Connie has a lengthy description of the memorial stones and the gazebo as well, so she can talk more about that later. But it's always there, 24 hours a day. You just do it on your own listening device, so it's pretty cool.
More technology.
More technology, but good stories and history as well.
Yeah. Also the Woods Foundation, they were always very generous to us too. And, the volunteers that I've had here, just been, so many things I couldn't have done without volunteers, so their gift is very important. And so I'm gonna wind down my talk now. I want to finally, I want to thank the Madeline Island community for taking me in with open arms and an open heart. And for all of you here today, and the Friends of the Madeline Island Museum for inviting me to speak about my favorite subject, me.
Wide fame, but certainly the United States fame. We, when we had first had my in-laws' cabin, we had a family from Kansas who did a whole lot of carpentry, loved Eric, they worked together all the time, and he brought his whole family up here for the summer to remodel our cabin, and from Kansas. And the kids, the 4 Perry kids loved the library. They were here all the time. And they were also learning how to play the bagpipes.
Oh, that's right.
And Connie is famous because she let them.
We had, they played for people, right?
And they were
on
on the porch. Yeah, and I thought they even went up into the tower.
Oh, maybe I let them go up there.
You did. Because it is a memory.
I really did.
Historical moment.
Yeah. Oh,
So you mentioned earlier weird requests that you would have.
weird interlibrary loan requests.
Ah.
You know,
Wondered
you
if
just
you could
can't
give some
hide things from
examples.
people sometimes, you know, so we had to be discreet about, you know,
Oh, I see.
certain books and things like that. But, yeah, or, you know, I don't know, what other requests?
You probably got requests about like books on relationships or divorce or health or certain things like that, right?
Everything.
The Scarlet Letter.
And then pretty soon you could order your interlibrary loans yourself, but they would come here and then we'd have to call them and say, their book is here. So, so you have to be discreet as a librarian as well.
Well, that's what I'm thinking from what you're saying, that you know so much about all of us.
You do. And then, well, children hang out here.